Hi, and welcome to Stories and Spoilers, the podcast. This episode is going to be a secret story episode. So, kind of like a blind date with a book, but instead, I'll be telling you all about the book tropes, trigger warnings, my favorite quotes, why I recommend this book so highly, and then in the middle, I will reveal what book I'm talking about. After that, I will go into a spoiler talk about the book and about the story and why I fell in love with it so much. And then from there, I will just kind of go more in depth about why this story is definitely one you should read. So I'm super, super excited because this is a book that's part of a series, but I thought that it could kind of stand on its own. I loved it that much. So yeah, let's just hop right into it. So, the non spoiler points. This book tropes, they are friends with lovers. They are book characters whose love language is honestly just acts of service. Both of them are constantly doing things for each other, be it making jokes, finishing certain tasks, giving advice during hard times, things like that. The meet cute is adorable. They end up meeting at a party. And in a way, they kind of just are gravitating towards each other. And then one thing leads to another, and they have a kiss for New Year's. And then after that, for like a year, they're just really, really good friends. But he falls first. He always had feelings for her, and she just didn't see it. And then towards the middle, she kind of does realize, like, she always knew he was attractive, but then more towards like the middle, she really hits her, like, damn, he's always really been there for me. He's a big cinnamon roll, and even the description of this male love interest is very Jason Momoa. He's a bigger guy, he's got a man bun, and I just love how he adores the main character. Additionally, this page, it was only like 384 pages. So I really flew through this book, and this author has a way of like pulling you into the story and making you care about the main characters, making you care about the side characters. I can't tell you how much I adore this book. You also have anxiety representation for the female main character. She struggles a lot with her anxiety. She also has some issues communicating her feelings and communicating kind of what she would want to happen, how she feels about certain things, what her dreams are. It's a little difficult sometimes, but she's incredibly passionate, which I loved about this story. She's covered in tattoos. There's lots of stories about where these tattoos come from. It also deals with loss in this book and descriptions about like loss of a parent. And it's just really like it fleshes out the main character because she wants love, and she acts like she doesn't seek romantic love, but she does, which just makes the male love interest even more sweet. He's just like a big teddy bear, and he really wants to be there for her. He also has a very large family where you kind of see near the later on in the story you get to hear more about his family, and I loved that. Like, I loved learning more about his family. It is a bit of a slow burn. It takes a while for them to kind of find each other in that way. And the spicy moments, chapter 13. That is all I'm going to say. Chapter 13 was amazing. Something amazing about this book as well is that there is an element of fixing a school bus and making that school bus into kind of a tiny home. And the couple in the story, they end up working on the tiny home together, and it's just so romantic, like how they end up working on this tiny home and like how they end up kind of working on that as a team. I loved that. Like, I loved how they kind of worked together trying to fix this little bus and make it into a home. It was adorable. Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. Trigger warnings. There is discussions of loss and grief, which I just think you should be aware of before you go in because it's a very emotional book. It does have happy moments. It does have sad moments, but man, like, I just wanted to give both these characters a hug so many times. So yeah, I think that's just something to keep in mind. This is not an ad, but I highly recommend that you read this book as an audiobook because I read it as an audiobook the first time. I read it on Libby, which once again, I cannot stop talking about this app, but if you have a library card, please use it. Like, you can read this book for free. And then the other two books, they reference characters from these books. Like, if you read book one, it's a different couple, but they do like certain characters you might see pop in and out in the other books, and that was really adorable. So yeah, you can find all these books on Libby, which is great. But I also own physical copies of these books because I love them so much, and I just wanted to be able to grab them anytime and read them. So I highly recommend that as well. Like, any form of how you read this book, you'll love it. But man, the audiobook version is just so good. It's so good, especially with the banter between these two characters. It was adorable. So yeah. Additionally, I did want to share a few of my favorite quotes from this book because it just like some of these I just can't stop thinking about. Like this book is memorable because of the quotes. Some quotes from this book are, "Can I come to your dinner party? I'd love to meet your dad," which is in reference to like a reference that like the main character makes about like, if you have a dinner party, like who would you want to be there? And like her dad did pass away, and like the love interest, the male love interest is like, "I would love to meet your dad. Like I wish I could have done that." And that just hit me so hard. Additionally, he says, "I miss you. You ruined me. Do it again." Swoon. Another line from this book that I adored was, "Don't leave me alone while you fight those dragons. Let me be next to you. Nobody is perfect. You are, I think." Like, who wouldn't like swoon over that? Like, that's such a cute quote. "You gotta find somewhere to put the love. When are you going to understand that I like being around you?" He said, "My mom was the lighthouse that guided all the fishermen home. He called her his guiding light." Oh my gosh. "We have this dynamic. You ask me for something and I take care of it for you." Are you flirting with me? For over a year now. Thank you for noticing. Like, oh my gosh. I literally, without going, like, there's more quotes, but I don't want to, like, jump too straight into spoilers. Just that line where she's like, "Are you flirting with me?" And he's like, "Well, yes. I've been flirting with you for, like, a year." That is pretty much the whole vibe of the story. Like, miscommunication is not my cup of tea, but this wasn't really like that. It was more like they were just really good friends, and he didn't communicate clearly, like, "I want you." Had she known that, she probably would have pursued him. But he just didn't communicate that, so that's why she didn't pursue him. Additionally, I did want to add the female main character is bisexual, so I loved the representation in that. If you know, I am only reviewing LGBTQIA books starting next week in October, just for the whole month. And this book honestly was the perfect introduction to that because bisexual representation is so important. And I just loved how the female main character in this book was bisexual. And she's trying to find a date, and she's trying to find a date for her sister's wedding. And long story short, like, obviously the person she should be with is the love interest, like her friend, but she just couldn't see that at that point, and he was always there for her. So I loved how that does become clear later on. But he's very supportive of her. Like, he's not assuming like I am the one. He supports whatever she wants, and he's just such a big softie for her. So this is the end of the non-spoiler section. I do want to reveal what the book is, and the book is Next to You by Hannah Bonham Young. It is such a good book. It is such a good book. Like, I cannot get over how good this book is. I do have a physical copy, and it's so, so good. The cover is absolutely gorgeous. I'm sorry if it's flipped in reverse. I'm still trying to learn how to like edit all this stuff, but man, this book is so, so good. The main characters' names are Lane and Matt. I had to remember that because I read this book a while ago. When I tell you, Matt is literally Jason Momoa. Like, him in this book, that is who he is. I just adored how he treated her. Jumping more into spoilers, the element of Matt being in love with her the whole time and Lane having feelings for him, but them just meeting each other kind of halfway, I really loved. I love that she had fears of like losing Matt, because of the grief that she lost her dad and just the fear that everyone was going to leave her. I love that she was able to get more vulnerable with Matt later on. I also like how Lane working on the school bus with Matt, it really was him showing her through his actions how he felt about her. The spice and the tension was divine. I really enjoyed how he made the like worry dolls, and he gave her a lot of them, and he just wanted her to have some relief, and he wanted to be there for her. And I just felt like the story was like a warm cup of tea. Like, you could feel the passion and the care for these characters between each other. I just adored how much they cared for each other. I also really liked the scene where Lane is sitting on the bench. She goes to Matt's family house, and she has some time alone to kind of deal with her grief and learn more about how she wants to approach it. And Matt's mom went through a really major moment where she lost relatives, and she had to deal with that grief. And I liked how they spoke to each other in that moment. So even though this is a contemporary love story, it felt like It covered loss, it covered found family, it covered anxiety, it covered communication and relationships. It was just such a beautiful story. Matt says something at one point when Lane goes on a date with this like jerk, and he says the bar for men is in hell. Just perfect writing. Like Hannah Bonham Young, she writes these stories where like these men are gems. They are walking green flags, and it's just such like a breath of fresh air. Where like Matt isn't this like controlling, dark, brooding character. Like he really is just like a wonderful guy. He's very much Bo from Out on a Limb. Like it's very hard to beat it. Like he's amazing. Also, I love how Matt said "destroy me if you must" with Lane when it came to like sexy stuff. Like when she was like, "I don't know if I should do this," he was like, do it, destroy me. I love that. Like I love that he said that. He was so like supportive, and he was all about her. Um, and I love these last two lines. I really held these close, and I wanted to save them for the last part of this podcast, where Matt says, "I remind her that her worth isn't weighed on how much she gives." And I love how Lane is like, "I need him to wait for me. Like I need my last breath." The ending moment where like Lane goes after Matt, like she is driving in the rain in the school bus, and like she's learning how to drive the bus, and she goes to his family home, and she's trying to find him to confess how much she cares about him. The way like she proposes to him, which I have not read much in books, and I loved the way she did it. Like I love how in the family room she's literally saying like, "I'm in love with you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you." Like she's so vulnerable. She's pursuing him. It kind of reminded me of Leap Year, that movie Leap Year. So good. Like this book gives me the same feelings that movie gave me, where it's like the guy just wants her to approach him and to like woo him, and it's all about timing, and like you could tell how much he just wanted to hear her say how she felt about him. And it just felt so good when she did. And like this book will make you feel like you're in a rom-com. It'll make you feel like it's a rom-com but more. So amazing, so wonderful. I wouldn't describe this book on a spice level as a hot cappuccino. There is a plot and there is a lot going on outside of just the sexy scenes. I think that category wise, like how I would like layer this heat to like this steam, I would definitely say this is like a chai tea latte. It's got spice, but it also has warmth, and it feels like a really big hug. Like it just feels like you'll remember how sweet this couple is, and like you'll just want to read this book over and over again. I definitely have to rate this as one of my favorite contemporary romances of the year. It just the everything Hannah Bonham writes has been amazing. I've been so grateful to be able to read all her books this year. I cannot wait for Out of the Woods, which is coming out soon. I think it's coming out next year, and I already pre-ordered my copy. I just can't recommend this book enough, and I hope that you definitely read it. So thank you so much for listening to this episode. And if you ever have any book recommendations, please put them in the comments for me. You can rate this podcast on Spotify, and you can also subscribe on YouTube and like, and just please be sweet in the comments, and have a great day.